Hello. Welcome to the Advisor Training Series webinar that is Motivating the Middle. My name is Suzanne Giffen, and I will be your technical producer and moderator this evening. This webinar will be presented by Carolyn Simpson and Leslie Lage. Our goal is to help you identify and share ideas on motivating the chapter member, your chapter members. Before we start the presentation, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel. On the right side of your screen, you will see the attendee control panel, and on the left is the webinar viewer window. This viewer window will display the presenter's screen when the webinar begins. The control panel can be minimized or expanded by clicking on the horizontal double arrow button in the upper left corner. Minimizing the panel allows a better view of the presentation. Take a moment to practice. There are a few features of the control panel that you should become familiar with. First is the Raise Your Hand button. This button is located along the left side of the control panel. It allows you to virtually raise your hand if you have a question or if you want to respond to a question being asked by the presenter. Click this button now to raise your hand now. Everybody able to see that raise your hand button? I only see one click, one hand up. Everybody else know where you're up? There are several more. Great. I'm going to lower your hand now. Clicking again will lower your hand. Another important feature of the control panel is the questions pane. To submit a question, type it into the question box. These may be questions related to the presentation or technical questions related to the GoToWebinar system. You may also be asked by the presenter to take your ideas or responses, to type your ideas or responses here as part of an exercise during the webinar. Questions may be submitted at any time. These will be monitored, and we will try to respond quickly if we see something that shouldn't wait until the end of the presentation, such as making a clarification. During the webinar, you may be asked to respond to a polling question or survey. Please take the time to participate as your input and ideas are valuable to the group. Be sure to stay attentive and to interact as much as possible during this webinar. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. Try to avoid the distractions of responding to email, checking Facebook, instant messaging, or working on other tasks as your computer. If you need to step away for a moment, do not close the GoToWebinar window, as you will be required to log in again if you wish to rejoin the session. If you experience problems with the audio, one possible solution is to use the conference call number and listen to the presentation using your phone. Click the Use Telephone option in the audio pane of your control panel to view the conference call number. This webinar is being recorded, and the online archive will be available to view on the CAPL website in approximately 2 weeks. Are there any questions? Okay, we have a question. You should be, so the person who asked about seeing the screen, you should be able to see my screen right now that has the first slide of the PowerPoint. If you don't, please raise your hand. Okay. And now I would like to hand the virtual microphone over to Carolyn Simpson.
Thanks so much, Suzanne. We're glad you're all here with us tonight. Leslie, are you there? she is working this evening, and I think she's in her car. So the last text message I got was that she was trying to connect. So hopefully she's going to jump in here with us. And when you do, Leslie, just let me know you're here. This webinar is based on a book by T.J. Sullivan titled Motivating the Middle. And we're going to talk a little bit about student organizations, Kappa in particular, and how organizations can be divided into thirds, and how you as advisors can help your chapters motivate the maximum number of members. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. Okay, yeah. So we're going to be looking at what the characteristics of the three groups in the student organization. We're going to be talking about how you motivate that middle group, and then we'll ask for some ideas for sharing and give you some ideas. And hopefully at the end, we'll give you some information. And if you decide to use this with your chapter women, we'd like for you to respond back to us so we can kind of keep up with who maybe has used this and if it was successful. So I think, yeah. So we're going to talk about the characteristics of the top, middle, and bottom thirds of organizations. So let's look at the top third first. So characteristics of the top, one more, back one. Characteristics of the top third members, and you'll recognize this for the women that you work with. They do most of the work. They are the visible leaders. They're easily recognized on campus. Carrie is in student government. Darnell plays football. Susie is a Kappa. They will have an opinion about the direction of the organization and how they see it moving forward. They actually want to use their influence and their social capital to affect the organization. And they are going to believe that the success or failure of an organization reflects on them personally. And then they care about the new members. They put strong effort into everything, including fundraising activities. They can be very competitive when the success of the group is on the line. They get excited when the group does well and frustrated when it doesn't do well. They care about their campus image, and they wish so much that everyone would take the organization as seriously as they do and give their 100%. They love certain aspects of the organization and see the potential it has, and they devote a large amount of time to the organization. They strive to find fixes. They attend leadership conferences. You know these women in your chapter. They are the ones that you work with most as an advisor.
And here is your first poll question. Let me pull it up here. Oops, sorry. Okay, your first poll question. Do you think that approximately 1/3 of your members fall into this top category? Your answers are either yes, no, or not sure. Please vote now. Okay, Carolyn. 60% say yes. They think that 63% say yes, that approximately 1/3 of their members fall into this top category. 11% say no, and 21% are not sure.
Okay, well, oh yay, I think Leslie's here. As we move through the training, hopefully you'll be able to figure out where you think that the members in the chapter you work with, where they fall. Probably you can roughly divide the chapter into a third, a third, a third, you know, unless you have particular circumstances on your campus with the chapter you work with. And Leslie says she's there, but she can't see the screen.
I'm
Okay.
here if you can hear me, but I cannot see.
Okay. And Suzanne, can you pull the screen back up?
It should be there now. Can you see it?
All we see is the
The
title
poll?
page.
The title page?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Any better now? Okay, hold on. Let me do this.
So, Leslie, are you in a parking lot somewhere?
I am. I apologize for being late. I'm in a parking lot, but I am here with you guys, ready to roll.
Okay, you
Here
should
we
be able
go.
to see it now. There you go.
Okay. So, Leslie, this is yours.
All right. Perfect timing then. So now we'll examine the bottom third members. So characteristics of the bottom third. They are extreme opposite of what we've just covered, being of the top third. They are the least likely to care about the organization. They make no personal sacrifices for the organization. They are members who might behave badly at an event. I'm sure we've met some of them. They avoid paying dues. They publicly criticize the group. They shirk their commitments altogether. They create the endless drama. And they make the top third members crazy, right? So that being the complete opposite. So while the top third go above and beyond, making enormous personal investments, commitments of time and energy to build the organization up, the bottom third miss no opportunity to rip it down.
Oops, sorry.
They don't show up to things, or when they do,
Sorry. There you go.
we're good. So more about the bottom third. They don't show up to things, or when they do, they're negative. They only come to the fun stuff. So subsequently, they frequently miss meetings, service events, things that make us those well-rounded members. They may sign up, but then they bail out last minute. They're technically members, but they're really not there, right? They're not engaging. They come to the party, but then ditch the committee work. They're critical often of our leaders, but aren't willing to step up to lead themselves. And they have horrible attitude.
And for our second poll, let me pull this one up here. Crap. Sorry. Technical difficulties. There we go. All right. Can you identify members in your chapter that have the characteristics of the bottom third? And, hold on, here come your answers. Yes, no, not sure. Please vote. Unfortunately, I think we all can identify the bottom third as 74%. Let me share it with you here. I'm going to close it. 74% say that, yes, they can identify the bottom third. 4% say no, and 19% aren't sure.
Okay, so the differences between the top and the bottom. The top third of your members will spend most of their time doing all of the work. They will be focused on their tasks, and they're going to spend a lot of time wishing that they could change the bottom third.
And the bottom third members spend most of their time focused on themselves, taking from the organization and putting themselves constantly at odds with that top third group.
The top third members often get exhausted and burnt out.
While the bottom third give very little.
The top third will commiserate with you and tell you all the things that they wish everyone else was doing, or they might get angry or depressed.
And while they're doing that, the bottom third are making excuses and getting drunk and having a great time at all the parties.
The top third members will try to solve the problems.
And the bottom third appear lazy and uncommitted to the rest.
The top third members will complain.
And the bottom third also complain.
So then we have that forgotten group in the middle third.
All right, so we're going to give you two scenarios, and we want you to see if you recognize these women as women that you work with in some capacity. So first, let's talk a little bit about Carol. So Carol loves her sorority. She shows up to almost all of the mandatory things, and she counts the sisters as her best friends. Sisters think of her favorable, but she is not really seen as that chapter leader. She held a committee chairmanship once, but didn't pursue anything after that. She sometimes struggles with the financial and time commitments and frequently worries about all the things that she needs to get done. Her boyfriend complains about the amount of time she spends doing sorority stuff.
Go ahead with Michelle.
Okay. So then we have Michelle. So Michelle got interested in the program board when she started her first year, and she served on all the films committee and diversity week committees. But she also works at a store in the nearby mall, and the money she makes goes a long way toward helping the tuition bills and expenses. There's an opportunity to run for a chairman's position with the program board, but there's also an assistant manager's position potentially opening at her store. She doubts she can do both. So if you think about Carol and Michelle, right, these are two women that we can absolutely relate with and have worked with in some capacity or potentially have been us at some point. So there's a big space between the top third and the bottom third members. And it's in this forgotten space the middle third members live. Their perspective is way different from that of both the top third and the bottom third.
Sorry. There we go.
Their characteristics. They really do care about the organization, and they have a positive attitude, and they want to contribute. They are involved, but usually that involvement is not the defining thing in their personal lives and what they do. They are not usually thought of leaders. They don't usually criticize or often offer opinions. They're the group that just, they show up and they're just there. They're just there.
So because they're not the first to step up, right, they're not typically thought of as the leaders. They're not the go-tos, if you will. They don't seek praise, responsibility, or attention. They're really just flying under the radar. And they're definitely more likely to be seen as a supporting player than that total MVP.
So some things about the middle third that we need to recognize. They usually have a lot of different things going on, and often those things don't seem to come together or mesh very well. They have to choose between priorities, and they are great jugglers. Some of these women juggle their priorities better than others. They will not volunteer if the description of what they're supposed to do or the activity or the job, if that description is vague. They will not jump out when they don't know what's required of them. For example, one middle third member is doing a great job of handling the multiple demands in her life, and another is struggling as soon as one priority becomes more demanding, or when something unexpected, a tough class, trouble in a relationship, she gets the flu, her car breaks down, then she's going to struggle and sort of fall off balance. And they are keenly aware of that balance in their lives and how everything has to be in its place to just keep going. But then another middle third member will do what she needs to do, or what she's going to do is find the pieces of the organization that she likes doing. But she won't sign up for a leadership position that might demand a whole lot more of her because she doesn't know if she can handle it. And if a meeting lasts for an hour, it's supposed to last for an hour and it goes for 2, we have just thrown her off her balance, and she is not likely to volunteer.
So how do we motivate the middle? all that said, right? So I think, as we kind of talked about this and prepared, so we could all relate that the biggest mistake that student leaders make when it comes to motivation and fighting apathy is thinking that all of their members will respond to the same things that motivate them. So, keeping in mind, those are that top third, right? So they're talking to a different group of people. Leaders just don't understand why other people don't want it as badly as they do. We see this in our chapter leaders all the time. They wonder, what are we doing wrong?
Middle third members care about the organization, but they worry. They worry about their leadership abilities. They worry about not being able to handle all the things they have going on in their lives. And you've seen these women. They just constantly worried about themselves and often don't seem to have a lot of self-confidence.
So what can we do to motivate that middle third member? We can ask their opinion, but don't just ask them to do anything, right? So start the conversation by, I want to pick your brain about this topic. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to take on additional responsibilities. I just value your opinion. So I think we've all really been in a position where you kind of need to kind of set that conversation up. And I think from an advisor standpoint, that's where, our influence can really come into play to not only help those conversations, but help facilitate them. We want to ask, what one thing do you think we could be doing that we aren't doing now to make this group stronger? And just listen, right? I think, they bring a completely different valued opinion to the conversation and to the topic. And they may say, the first and foremost is start and end your meetings on time, right? It could be something that simple that as leaders and that top third completely overlook. Nothing stresses out the middle third members more, like we've already shared, than the prospect of a long drawn-out meeting, something that's going to overlap with their already competing priorities.
And we're up for another poll question. Hold on just a second here. This one is, does Chapter Council regularly seek input or opinions about issues or events from their chapter members? And your answer here is yes or no. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Interestingly enough, it is 54% said yes, 42% said no.
And I'm going to jump in here and say, I believe that could be one of the reasons that many of us and many of our chapters have trouble with engagement and attendance, and we're not asking our members to participate in decisions. Chapter council is making decisions and telling the members what we're going to do. And this is just a very personal pet peeve of mine. Don't ask me to come to a meeting and then not ask me to participate in some way. Give me something to vote on. Take my opinion on something. But if it's just a report out meeting, you haven't engaged everyone in the chapter. So engage the chapter members, and I think once there's an engagement, they then become more engaged themselves because they feel like they have a voice in what's going on.
And your second question on this one, is a timed agenda used at chapter meetings? Yes or no? This one also is very interesting. 27% said yes, 73% said no.
And Leslie, you may agree with me, where chapters where I have visited and probably you've visited, I think that's probably true, that we're not using timed agendas as well as we could be. And if you do use the time agenda, you help those officers that are making reports or presentation to the chapter. You make them sort of hone in on their presentation and be a little more responsible about what they're doing.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And I think the other component to that is really helping the officers identify what's chapter council business to discuss and what's appropriate to discuss in meeting. That can also help with that time frame in meeting.
Absolutely. So let's look at some more things about the middle members. They absolutely hate mandatory events. So if you can give all members more choices and the ability to skip the things they don't enjoy, that will increase their enjoyment and commitment to the organization. Middle members don't like conflict, and I think we saw that on a previous slide. They're the people who want to get along, who want to be friends with everyone. And so all the time that the top third and sometimes the advisors give to focusing on those bottom third members is time we could be focusing on that middle group. It's sort of like going from good to great, and that middle group is just this ripe group of women that we can move from good to great. Yeah, so we could be connecting with them and praising and getting them more involved. Let the middle third member find what she likes and let her lead on that, because when she gets excited about something, then she will do it. Thank them, always thank them for participating. And you know, we should be doing that with our chapter members more often. Officers should be thanking the chapter for showing up for things and thanking them for the work they did on this event or this project or whatever. And then always be there to assist them with things that are stressful in their lives. If they're struggling with a class or a relationship or work or whatever it might be, the chapter needs to be there to support them.
And another polling question. Hold on just a moment here. Of the events mentioned here, which are choices for chapter members? Is it attending other Greek philanthropy events and participating in initiation? Or B, attending other Greek philanthropy events and a date party? Or C, attending other Greek philanthropy events and recruitment? We have 100% on this one, 1 and 3. There you go.
Good job. Very good.
There we go.
All right, so more middle third member strategies and ideas, right? So how do we work with them? How do we get them motivated from that good to great? So as we've already kind of shared a little bit, right? So the key piece here is giving them a meaningful supporting role, not something that's going to overwhelm them, but something they can definitely have value input in. So for example, asking and simply making the statement and the ask of, the treasurer could really use some assistance. Would you be willing to step up for a few days to help her get caught up? Right? So that time frame is there, the objective is clear, and the expectations are clear. A middle member is going to feel great about doing a super low-key task that helps the overall organization, and she sees where she kind of put her footprint. You know, asking for help on one specific limited time task. Example, we have Moms Weekend coming up. We need someone who will get the correct addresses, phone numbers, emails of all the moms. Could you help us out? Again, that very time-specific place where she can walk away feeling like she really had added value.
And I'm just going to jump in here because those examples are things, often you find your middle members hanging out in your committees without a specific thing to do. So the officer, as the committee chairman, could certainly give those kinds of limited specific tasks to her committee members, and then those middle members that sort of sit in those committees and are just sort of there feel like they have contributed to the organization and they've done something they can do on their terms.
Absolutely. Also, right, taking some personal time with them. The member from out of state comes to all the meetings, but you don't know her very well. So invite her to coffee, show an interest, answer questions that she may have. Learn more about where she may be able to have input and what her thoughts are. And I think this is a big one, right? So slowing down on decisions. If decisions are made quickly at meetings, the middle members are not contributing, right? That is that top third just going in, dominating. They have a clear objective. They know what they'd like to see happen. And so they're making those decisions without that input or even seeking it. Sometimes just not even being aware of it, most times, right? So between the origination of an idea and the final decision, you should reach out to the middle third for their suggestions. We can hardly expect them to support the ideas of the organization if the top third are dominating the entire process and excluding thoughtful input from that middle third. And I think from an advisor standpoint that that's really, again, where we can really influence that, because we can kind of be that third-party objective view looking in and be able to identify that and help them through that process.
So, sometimes, as an advisor, I like to talk, when I'm talking with the chapter officers, I sort of like put it on a timeline, and I'll say, you know, you're at this end of the timeline as a chapter council on this issue or this project because you've been talking about it. But everybody else in the chapter is back here at the beginning. So you have to, as the leaders and the officers in the top third, bring the rest of the people along with you. And so that kind of plays into that. Try not to make the decisions too quickly. Make sure everybody has all the information they need.
All right, so from a chapter council idea. So identifying a particular issue in your chapter and then targeting the habits, behaviors, or opinions of those who fall in the middle of that topic. As an example, could you improve attendance by appealing to those who attend most, but not all of the time? So how would we handle that, right? So the recording secretary could create a list of those who attended 2/3 of the time. She could make the meeting meaningful by giving members something to vote on, as Carolyn suggested earlier. The middle third members need to feel like they are part of that decision-making process. And also, right, this always works for us, include incentives and fun items in each chapter meeting. So instead of asking the top third members who always come, or threatening the bottom third members who hate coming, start finding out what changes you could make to the meeting to make it more exciting for that middle third who attends maybe 3 out of the 5. So should we change the time? Do we need more substantive topics? Do we need more organization to the meeting? Again, that seeking, and that's where oftentimes we just don't slow down to ask those questions to find out what the root cause is of somebody not attending or doing something and participating.
And we're back to a couple more poll questions. Okay, this one is, do you use incentives and or fun activities to increase your attendance? Yes or no? Okay, I'm going to close the poll. 81% said yes, 19% said no.
That's terrific.
Good. And our second poll, do you regularly, hold on just a second here until I get it up here. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Do you regularly ask your chapter members what it would take for them to attend events and meetings? Yes or no? Another one that is pretty telling. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. 9% said yes, 91% said no.
And again, I think that goes back to the top third of your members are making all the decisions. And when people are engaged in decision making, they are usually more engaged in an organization. So conventional wisdom says that you should focus on the bottom third. We need to get those bottom third people engaged and get them all I think go back one, Suzanne.
Okay.
This is an example of what we might do with the GPA. So this would be an example that you could use with your chapter. So say that they want to boost their GPA. So you could take the approach that everybody has to have a mandatory study hall 3 nights a week. But the VPA and her committee could also make a list of all the members in descending order with the highest grades at the top and those worst at the bottom, and then draw a line dividing the group into thirds. And then...
Hold on just a sec here.
And so you've got this group of thirds. So conventional wisdom says we need to really focus on that bottom third and really get their grades up. We've got to do that. But really and truly, if you want to make a significant change in your grades, you're going to focus on the middle group, because the bottom third member with a 1.2 or a 1.7 or maybe a 2.0 is really probably unlikely to get a 3 point or above the next semester. But those middle third members with a 2.7 or 2.8, somewhere in there, with enough encouragement and incentives and assistance, they might just get to 3.0 or the 3.2 mark. And once they've done that, they're likely to stay there again because the feeling is so good. Oh my gosh, look what I did. I raised my GPA from a 2.6 to a 3.2. Good for me. So again, focusing on that middle group, this is just a really great example of how you as an advisor can help the VPAE or the events person, the events chairman, engage those middle people.
And another example is if, again, right, as just throwing these ideas out here, as you can definitely take these back to your group. So your chapter is considering an increase in dues. That's always a hot button for topic, right? And so we expect it to be controversial. So likely a third of the members will completely understand the argument, understand what the need is for, understand where the money is going to go for, and they're going to be all about it. That is the top third, and they'll probably vote exactly as the amendment or as the project is put out there. But there's likely going to be a certain percentage of the members that will vote against the increase in dues, right? So this is the bottom third. These are the women that aren't coming to things anyways. These are the women that aren't involved, and so they're going to probably work pretty hard against the whole concept and idea. So, again, right, it comes back to this middle group, right? So the middle third is going to really make that decision for the entire chapter. So they'll form their opinions, they'll listen to the arguments. To win the middle third members, you may have to negotiate a little bit or change or implement something or allocate money to new items within the chapter budget. But again, right, that doesn't happen until we are seeking their input and and asking for what they're looking for. You'll need to take the conversation to them and ask them, right? Put their fears to rest, see what they are looking for, and implement that for the greater gain of the group.
And committees are a great place to do that. Another example is, so you need to raise more money for your philanthropy. And instead of doing the fundraiser that appeals to the top third, who are going to participate no matter what we do, or begging the bottom third, who aren't going to be motivated to do it, period, ask the middle third, how much time can you invest? Would you be willing to sell tickets? What have you seen in other organizations that would work, that would take a reasonable amount of time and effort, so we're not all just spending all of our time on raising money for a philanthropy?
All right, so after all of this talk about motivating the middle third, we haven't really addressed yet the bottom third, right? So the question out there is, do we just ignore them and let them get away with contributing less? You might be surprised, but the answer is yeah. It's pretty much yes. It really comes down to the matter of purpose. So you deal with the bottom third members by setting a minimum standard and then holding those members to those minimum standards. And I know we talked about a lot, you know, CAPA has a set of minimum standards, right? We have to attend certain events, mandatory events. We have to do certain things. We have to pay our dues. And so that's okay sometimes for those people to live in that space. And I think that that's where we can really help that top third come to grips with that.
And here is our final poll, which I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you to type in the answer here, either A, B, or C. Which of the following are minimum standards of CAPA? A, attendance, finance, academics. B, finance, social events, campus involvement. Or C, academics, sisterhood, or intramurals. So please type in your answer, either A, B, or C. Oh, you all are so smart. You all are so smart. Yep, everybody is answering A, which is correct. Attendance, finance, and academics. Now, I have a couple.
And just let those bottom third people meet the minimum requirement. And as we said, just let them meet the minimum and quit wasting all your time and energy trying to get them to do something that they're not going to do.
Okay. I have some comments, which I thought I'd pass along right now. Hold on just a second here. We were talking about, oops, what happened? They were talking about us. One of our attendees mentioned that the chapter council sends out a survey. They do a chapter survey on particular on a particular issue or event that they want to do, and so that this is what they use then to go ahead and work on that particular event.
And that's a great way to engage people. But you might ask chapter council, can you take it one step further? When you get the survey back and you see if people have signed it and you see some of those members that sort of fall into that middle third, if they have ideas, then maybe those chapter council women, one or two of them, could take them for coffee or whatever and sit down and say, hey, I saw that you had this great idea for this new event. Can you explain that a little bit to me? That's a fabulous start, but maybe you can take it one step further. And I guess part of what we're saying is engaging personally with your members is really good. If we can all put down our cell phones and talk, that would be great. So how do we reassure the top third that everything's going to go okay? They are going to get annoyed because we're only allowing these people to just meet the minimum, and they're going to say this is not fair. And you know what? They're right. It's probably not fair. But at some point in time, as the top third and as the leaders of the chapter, and this is something that you as an advisor can help them realize, kind of a life lesson here. Not every member of the organization is going to be equally committed and engaged as you are at all times. Some people will be engaged for a while and disengage and come back. But if you're spending all your time wishing everybody was engaged as you are losing energy that you could be spending somewhere else.
All right, so finally, right, as we talk about in a healthy organization, the hardest working members also get the extra benefits, right? So while they're annoyed, right, and they're upset and it's not fair, ultimately they're reaping the benefits of being active and involved, right? So they have a better self-satisfaction, they develop deeper relationships, deeper and better experiences than those who are not committed and aren't around. And their sense of overall contribution should outweigh what the less committed members experience. And I think that probably all of us that are participating tonight in the webinar, right, can relate to that, right? So we have given back, we have continued to put in, and so we therefore have had a meaningful experience to ourselves as part of getting back to the greater organization.
Okay, another poll that I would ask you to use to just type in, please. Do you feel more comfortable trying this strategy on a particular topic with your chapter? Yes or no? I'm having trouble with my question panel here. How about this? Those of you who would feel more comfortable trying this strategy, yes. If you're yes, please raise your hand. Oh, good. Everybody's raising their hands. Bravo.
So what we'd like to sort of challenge you as an advisor, what we'd like to challenge you to do is to work with your officers and your chapter council and find one issue in the chapter that you can target, and then try this strategy to engage the middle members. And we're sort of toward the end of the semester at this point, but maybe next semester, if you would do that, and then if you'd report your results to us, just say, hey, I listened to the webinar, and we tried to use this middle member strategy with raising our GPA or getting more people involved with our philanthropy, or we needed to change an event and we engaged the chapter. Whatever it is you're doing, if you'll just report your results to somebody, your coordinator of chapter support, your PDC or your RDC, and then we'll take those and we can use those as good examples and as best practices in future presentations. I think that's pretty much what I just said. We'd like to know. I particularly would like to know if this is really working and how it worked. So if you use it and it's successful, even if it's not successful, I think it's a good thing to know. And that's Leslie's RDC email, Gmail, just below.
And finally, if you think this webinar would be a great resource for your chapter council or advisory board, please contact Marla Williams at Kappa headquarters to request a Kappa trainer. The trainer will come to your chapter and present this resource as a workshop, and this is Marla's email address. So, anybody else have any other questions at this time?
Well, we want to say thank you for participating in this advisory board training series. We hope that we're going to be able to give you some good things that you can use with the chapters that you advise and with the chapter councils and the officers that you work with. That is definitely our goal in helping you to become the best advisor you can be.
Well, that pretty much does it. Thank you to our presenters, Carolyn Simpson and Leslie Lage, for leading this session, and thank you for your participation today. If you have any questions or comments about today's topic, you may email the presenter directly. We've given you the information on that. And if you'd like to be more involved in CAPA's virtual training and other webinar programs, we'd love to have you join our producer team. Please contact Karen Holmes at KKG headquarters for details. The benefits are excellent. The opportunity to support CAPA's webinar program and a front row seat at a great presentation. As we close the webinar, a survey will open on your screen. You'll be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions. Please take a moment to share your thoughts on today's webinar. Your feedback will help us shape future webinar training events. And if you have any questions or comments whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send an email to Karen Holmes at CAPA headquarters, which is kholmes@kkg.org. Thank you for participating, and have a great evening.